Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Reem. I'm in my second year of PhD. This presentation about the theoretical background of my study. It's about board gender diversity and firm performance, integrating two theories, which are agency theory and institutional theory. This is the agenda for the presentation. I'm not gonna go through it. So we are oftenly asked to tell a story with our research. So I will try to tell my story, a little bit of my story, as I didn't finish it yet, and explain how mentally I understood my topic and searched in the literature. So board gender diversity and performance is a wide area, has been researched heavily, but still there is no conclusive evidence for the value that females would add to performance of firms, or what we call the business case, or the profitability that would be gained by firms to grant females positions on the board of directors. So many voices were raised to not discussing the issue of board gender diversity from a profitability point of view, or just narrowing it to the business case. Many people called for integrating this the business case with the justice case or the ethical case of board gender diversity, that females deserve right and equal opportunities with their males, and they really add value if this was promoted correctly. So this is one of the authors that called for such a thing. Adding from myself also another point of view, which is the economic that we may address in emerging economies, or where females are needed to facilitate their ability to enter a labor market, and it's more seen as empowerment females in certain societies by letting them enter positions like leadership positions, like board positions. So looking back to the literature, the evidence is inconclusive and the results are mixed. Even in one country, results are mixed on whether females are really adding value and their presence is reflected in the performance of firms. This is some of the studies that indicated this issue. There is another issue which is found in emerging markets, where females are found to be adding value to the operational performance. However, when it's coming to the financial performance, or in corporations, listed corporations, it's affecting their presence is affecting negatively the performance. So why this thing might be as a reflection for the societal negative perceptions of females being promoted to high positions like board seats. And another explanation for the mixed results might be the methodologies used, as board gender diversity and any other corporate governance topic. It suffers from what we call endogeneity, where it's hard to observe the real effect for it and the real reflection of it in firm outcomes like performance. So most of the studies, the reviewed studies, handled board gender diversity on a firm level theoretical background, like agency theory and stewardship theory. Some of these studies try to link females to external board level to external firm issues like resource dependence theory, where it links females that they are adding value because of their connections to the exterior of the firm, but still the evidence is not conclusive as well. One of these studies investigated performance of banks through the lens of institutional theory that links the performance of banks through the institutions found in the society, and how this could be reflected on how females would really contribute positively to performance. I could manage to go through one study, which is this study, that linked performance issues of listed firms on the financial markets with a country-level institutional element, which is gender parity. And this would be I guess, the only exclusion that I found in the literature. So back to the literature, to the theoretical background, how agency theory would reflects the ability of females to add value to the firms where they perform. So agency theory is about the conflict between agents and principals in emerging markets. It takes another form, which is principal-principal conflict between majority and minority shareholders. Through the literature, it was linked mainly to board gender diversity by ownership structure, board independence, and board size. How each factor of these ones would interact with board gender diversity is tackled in these studies. So in ownership structure, mainly we have the family firms or governmentally held firms, and how families would promote their female members to leadership positions like boards, just because of their family ties, not because of their abilities or qualifications. We have also board independence, which is in the literature have been linked to how females are more ethical in certain issues, and they may be able to add more independence to the board, which is an important issue of corporate governance. And board size, where the size of the board, which when it's bigger, it's the probability that females may be in there is more. So this is for the firm level factors that are linked to board gender diversity and performance. So going to the other theory that I want to tackle, which is institutional theory, and how it was linked to board gender diversity. Originally, this theory was developed to tackle the issues that microeconomic theories like agency theory was unable to do, and it more links the firm to its external environment, to the institutions where they perform, and how this would be linked to board gender diversity, as gender is a matter of a societal issue, and societal perceptions really matter in these issues. Also, we have linked it to the socioeconomics and socio-political issues. So these are the factors that were analyzed and extracted from the literature that may be reflected in institutional theory: quotas, education, women in workforce, political representation, and culture. So quotas, according to institutional theory, may be considered as a coercive kind of pressure that the firm goes through Some countries tended to promote their females by forcing quotas on the corporations. Some countries did not, and this was reflected on performance as well. Education, as females, when they are females in certain society, are more educated. They are more. They have more opportunities to go through positions and leadership positions and progress through their career. And women in workforce, as this also may be a normative kind of pressure according to institutional theory, as females, when they are abundance of females in the workforce, this should be reflected on female entrepreneurship and also in leadership, presence of females in leadership positions like board seats. The other factor, which is political representation, when females are presented in the governments, they have political ties. They were found to be more presented in important places like board seats. This kind of pressure might be considered as normative kind of pressure according to the institutional theory, and it also may be a normative pressure that has a coercive pressure on the firm itself. So the other one, which is culture, as we said earlier, in certain countries where cultural perceptions, negative cultural perceptions exist towards women in certain positions like board seats, plays an important role, as this thing could not be reflected. Their positive contribution and the added value they put to the board could not be reflected on the financial performance, for example, because of the negative cultural perceptions found in the society towards them. So what I'm intending to do is integrating both theories under one assumption, which is that firms are not black boxes, and they interact with the external environment where they exist, and they are prone to internal pressures and external pressures. Internal pressures would be the variables in agency theory, like ownership structure, corporate governance, and board size, board characteristics, and these kind of variables. The external institutional variables or pressures that would be affecting the firm are, as I mentioned earlier, education, political representation, women in workforce, and culture. So this is to illustrate how these two theories underpin the assumptions that I mentioned. Agency theory with institutional theory. Agency will tackle the firm level variables. Institutional theory would tackle the country level variables or the macro level variables. Both will affect women representation on board of directors and eventually affecting firm outcomes such as performance. So, as I concluded earlier, a matter like board gender diversity, it's a multidisciplinary issue and needs to be tackled from more than one angle, considering the firm level factors and the external environmental factors such as political, economic, and societal as well. So that's it. Thank you.